Hello and welcome back to another episode of the longest game of all time. We are starting out here in 1980 this time around, or 1981 actually, but it's on 1980 right now. I'm here once again with Ezio. Hi Ezio.
Hello, hello.
Welcome back for the, what is this now, ninth episode in the series? Penultimate episode.
It's certainly the penultimate episode. I think we're at the 80s to the 90s now, and we started at 0, so it sounds like the ninth.
Yep. Thank you for bearing with us if you've gotten this far. And I mean, let's just jump right into it. Where we left off, the Austrian had just about managed to get back on their feet. In fact, they managed to get a pretty significant advantage over the Russians, specifically in Turkey here, mainly as a result of a failed German solo push that, everyone was able to capitalize on as they pushed them back. So the Austrian in particular is stronger now than I think it's fair to say they've ever been in this game, right?
Yeah, probably. That's probably true. Austria's position has been bad most of this game.
Yep. I mean, it's still not the best, as you can see. We've got them third on our power rankings here. It's particularly because they have this strong Italian next to them who's just maneuvered back to fight them after this fleet build. But here we are. So, shall we move ahead to 81, see what happens?
Let's get some moves.
Alright, spring 1981. Lots of movement here. Or attempted movement, anyway. Anything stand out to you off the bat?
I thought Austria and Italy would be friends, but they don't appear to be friends.
I'm pretty sure they were gearing up to not be friends after our last episode, although we did record that a little while ago now, so...
Yeah, I mean, gearing up to not be friends is different than actually not being friends. But they definitely... Yeah. Yeah, Austria was just expecting to be full-on not friends, and Italy obliged. Very cool. Germany moved into Tyrolia, which is exciting.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I wonder who it's benefiting, because obviously the Italian tried to walk in there, didn't manage to. But you'd assume this is more of an anti-Austrian position, given the German unit in Bohemia as well.
Yeah, that's my instincts. Also because Germany was offered support into Marseille, but declined to take it.
Yeah.
But I think Germany is probably going to take Brest, because Gascony can't actually be cut. So Gascony can support Paris to Brest, and that's guaranteed to work.
That's true. And Germany has positioned to a point where he can force the English Channel as well, right? Making up with the Russian here. I can't actually remember how good of a relation he had with the Russian before, but pulling out of Baltic is certainly something the Russian's going to see as a good thing.
Yeah, when Germany was at very high center count, like 16 or whatever, the whole map was attacking him. So his relationship with Russia was not very good.
Yep.
But it's fine.
But, I mean, through the rest of the game, they've worked together quite effectively, quite a lot. And looks like we're seeing that again here, although Kiel did go into Berlin, which is potentially dangerous for the Russian. Like, in the future. I wonder if Germany is going for the same path they got to last time, where they just surround the Austrian centres and then go for a mad dash. But it's going to be harder without the Iberian centres this time around. So...
Yeah, Iberia is important.
Yeah.
I agree with that analysis.
They've got 3 fleets against, 3 Italian fleets over there now, which is not an easy matchup when the other person already has the centres you're trying to take.
Yeah, absolutely. It's more possible with Gascony if Austria tries to push Germany through the stalemate line. And if Brest falls, Italy has a tough disband that might be one of those fleets on the west. So it's not impossible that Germany can break through, but I would be surprised.
Is the disband not just Army Apulia down here?
I mean, but yeah, like, look, it could be Fleet Rest, right? It could be that. I disagree. I agree. I don't think it's going to be a fleet that is important on the stalemate line. I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah. I mean, Army Apulia doesn't do a whole amount, except help advance against Austria, but it doesn't look like an advance against Austria is very likely right now.
Well, if Germany attacks Austria, also, see, if Germany like tries to take Vienna and tries to take Brest, then Italy could look at this position and say, well, I can probably hold Spain and Marseille for a long time without that fleet, but if I get the army into Albania, if Germany keeps going after Budapest, maybe I can get into Trieste or whatever. I've seen bad players make bad decisions, and I don't think we're going to see this Italian player choose to keep Army Apulia over Fleet Brest. I agree with you.
Okay. So the other thing, I guess the other important part of the board here is St. Petersburg retreating down to Moscow and the Austrian pushing their army into Ukraine. Looks like they're gaining a little bit of position on the Russian, but they don't really have a follow-up because they're having to defend against this Italian, and there are 2 German units on their northern border.
Yeah, getting into Ukraine is not particularly valuable if you can't follow it up with pressure into Romania. Also, the German army in Silesia can support hold Warsaw, so even if you did get an army in Romania, Moscow can still support hold Sevastopol freely. Yeah, just not what you're hoping for here. I don't really know what Austria was doing. Maybe Austria was trying to convince Germany to full-on stab Russia as well, and this was his hope of then getting into Warsaw.
That would make sense. I mean,
But that's not even going to work because Germany's just going to take Warsaw. Yeah, whatever, man.
Really, they should have put Galicia into Ukraine. Yeah.
That would be. I mean, that's the greedy instinct, but like, Galicia's an important territory, man.
Yeah, you kind of allow yourself to get surrounded by German units again. That could be painful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it still feels like Austria has an advantage because they've still got these 2 armies down in Turkey that can pin down Black Sea if he doesn't want to lose Ankara.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the fact he's got nothing in Bulgaria and Romania now is painful.
Yeah, and you're going to have, assuming these 4 units need to defend against Italy, Vienna, Budapest, Trieste, and Greece, which seems pretty reasonable. As long as Italy does these moves, Austria has a very hard time disentangling. So assuming these 4 units are tied down, then Russia's 3 units of Warsaw, Moscow, and Sevastopol only have to contend with Galicia and Romania. So those 3 units are eventually going to recapture Ukraine. Once they recapture Ukraine, then they're going to capture Galicia, potentially even disband Galicia, and then Romania can fall. Because Budapest is still tied down, Austria can have a rebuild. Once Galicia disbands, Romania goes. So
Austria really needs to either get Italy back on side or get Germany to attack Russia in the north, and neither are looking particularly likely right now from pure position.
But this is still the best Austrian position we've had in a long time, probably the entire game, because Austria's position has been so bad the entire game.
Yep. I mean, there's not a ton else to talk about this phase, is there?
I feel like we covered it.
Yeah, let's go ahead to the fall. I feel like we're getting slightly faster. Maybe it's the impact of that April Fool's video. Oh, okay, Germany is not getting slightly faster. It would not be an episode of the longest game of all time without a German NMR. I think at this point
I think you're completely right. I think literally every single one has had a German NMR.
Yeah, well, I mean...
It would continue.
I guess we have a bingo card now or whatever with the German NMR is the free space for these episodes. So, but you were actually... We
should actually make some bingo sheets for the final game.
I can't remember what we actually do in these. Come on. I forget what we talked about the very next episode. But you were right on Gascony. It did try and support Paris to Brest. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
That
because
did
that
not happen.
mattered.
And Cilicia was supported to Galicia, which would have worked as well. But nope,
Yep.
the German does not want to move. Um, and, and yeah, funnily enough, the Italian moved in a really suboptimal way down here because he was worried about Brest getting dislodged and having to retreat into mid-Atlantic Ocean, right? He would have probably preferred to be in mid-Atlantic Ocean here, but he had to leave the
Yep.
space open for the retreat, which didn't actually matter.
And I mean, to be fair, there's not that much value in being in mid-Atlantic Ocean if you assume that Germany will be in English Channel, because English Channel can cut, but it would have been better for sure.
Yeah. Actually, I guess my thinking was you can push one of your fleets up to North Atlantic or Irish, but maybe you don't want to do that anyway. You might just want to hold the stalemate line given you've only got 3 fleets.
Yeah, if you're also interested in attacking Austria, I would recommend against pushing up into North Atlantic Ocean, but if you can make peace with Austria, then I think it does make sense.
And Austria does kind of need to make peace with you here. You've got some. This is an interesting thing in the Italian peninsula. He did move Piedmont out, which means he hasn't got this barricade in the north that he usually has. Uh, Given that he's fighting against Germany, it's an interesting choice. But I suppose it's quite easily coverable. Um, and having Army Marseille is certainly better than having Fleet Marseille. So, what else happened here? We had the Austrian, spot how bad his Ukraine position was and just immediately go back, which makes total sense, I think. That seems to be the
Yeah,
best choice there.
I mean, yeah, I'd rather be in Romania here. It's still difficult, but this way your Ukraine army doesn't get disbanded, probably.
Yep. And given the current position, you were unlikely to build. Although turns out he would have been able to build if Ukraine had been disbanded. But it would have been in Trieste, so other side to where it needs to be right now. And I don't know. The Russian just seems to have a big advantage here. It depends a lot on where the German decides to go, because he has successfully concealed his intentions.
Yeah, I mean, again, not a single Russian unit moved, and not a single German unit moved. And 3 Italian units moved: Spain, Marseille, Piedmont, and 1 Austrian army moved Trieste to Albania. Oh, and Ukraine to
Ukraine
Romania.
moved.
2 Austrian armies moved.
So 5 units total moved. But the difference is that, there were actually fairly few failed moves on this board as well. Just a lot of people not trying to move, generally speaking. And yeah, this is the kind of fight you can get locked into on the Austrian-Italian front, where just no one is making any progress here until aid arrives from one side or the other. Austria might be in a position soon where he has to decide which front is less valuable to him. Although it seems like he's already kind of doing that. Right? I feel like the Russian is just going to make progress here.
It does seem that way, but I mean, it's possible that he uses Budapest, gets it into Serbia, so that Galicia can retreat into Budapest, and then he supports whole Romania and stops Russia from making progress that way. That is a theoretical position he could get himself into. It's of course an awkward one, but I mean, it's not the worst position to be in the world.
Sure, yeah, he could be on that one center position he was a while ago, like in the
Yeah, and I
1920s.
mean, yeah, I don't know. It sucks. It's tough, man. When you've got this, whenever you're Austria and Italy is just sitting here throwing units at you, and you're just like, dude, you're not gonna get anything, and I'm not gonna get anything, so neither of us can go anywhere. Can you please stop? And then Italy's like, no, and then you're like, please, and then it was like, no, it is so annoying. I hate it.
Yeah, I mean,
But what are you supposed to do as Austria? Kill Italy first? Yeah, that's gonna go great.
That's, I mean, he did have the opportunity to kill Italy a while ago, I think, when Italy was just sitting in Trieste on one centre. But yeah, that was 60 years ago, so a bit in the past now.
Yeah, there was like one time, right? There was one point when he could have walked into Venice or whatever
Oh
from
yeah, there
Trieste with an
was.
army, right? And then he could have just like walked into Rome.
I feel
That
like
would
there's
have
been a
been,
few times he had a chance to have a crippling stab on Italy, and he just hasn't taken it.
yeah,
But, I mean, that's true for most of the players about most of the other players in this game at this point.
yeah. Most people have had a chance to be pretty crazy.
Okay, so actually, I think like, the Austrian. It's quite a big disadvantage that he has this unit here in Gascony, right? Usually you like units over the stalemate line, but in this case, it's a little bit unhelpful.
No, units over the stalemate are just targets if you're not actively soloing, right? If you are soloing, then yeah, you want units to rake it. And sometimes in the early game, right, if the French has an army in like Tyrolia, can start messing with the balance of power over there and can be useful. But usually Tyrolia just takes Munich and then Tyrolia is happy.
This is true.
I don't know. I don't like being over the stalemate line too early.
Yeah. But I think the Austrians should hopefully be, well, should probably be negotiating to try and get that army blown up. Which, like, it's interesting, would Germany want to do that? Because right now it's helping Germany into centres. He's perfectly happy for it to continue helping him into centres, assuming he actually decides to move. So, I mean, yeah, either way, he needs to start moving before this can even be a consideration, so...
Yeah, if Germany does nothing but order all holds for the rest of this game, I believe Russia will solo.
This is probably... Well, yeah, no, that's probably true. I'm like, I don't know why I'm even considering this, because obviously... well, I mean, this is how we pad out the airtime on this show, right? But it's not something that would ever happen. Obviously, Germany has come back plenty of times after his NMRs, but I am actually kind of interested in thinking through here if Germany just completely abandoned the game, who wins? I feel like Italy does actually get quite strong in that scenario, no?
If Germany leaves, no.
No?
No, Germany can't take any of those. Italy cannot take any of the German centers.
They can
There's a bunch of fleets.
they can get up and convoy into Liverpool or whatever. Or they could convoy the Austrian army into Liverpool and just have fun there.
If they're moving their army, like Gascony is effectively tying down all of these units if Italy wants to take Liverpool, because Gascony is going to get a dot in that case.
This is true.
And Russia is the one with Norway and Sweden that are going to take Denmark, and then they're going to take Edinburgh and take the North Sea, and then there's Holland and Kiel and the rest. And if they're building in Warsaw, they get to take all of these German centers.
Yeah, but it's
Like,
so slow, right? And like,
how fast is Italy?
if Austria, Italy just work together, surely they can take Ankara and Sevastopol before Russia can take the entire north.
I mean, if Austria and Italy work together, yes, it's a very different game. Why would they work together if Germany orders all holds for the rest of the game?
I mean,
Because Russia's position is too strong.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, there might be that, but then suddenly we're back into the same nonsense of, is a strong position actually good or not? And yeah, if you can use your strong position, concede to the right people, and then make it work. It's just...
It's actually just interesting to look at how these armies affect the game, though, because even though they're not moving, they have a huge presence just all around.
They loom.
Just standing there. But they prevent anyone from getting into those centers, those provinces, and those provinces are all quite important right now.
Yeah.
But yes, anyway, that is something that's completely beside the point.
Yeah.
Shall we go ahead to the winter?
Let's do it.
Alright. Winter...
Hey, look, nobody had any builds.
Oh, there's no winter. Okay. So spring. Oh! Italian gets the convoy off. Because the Austrian decides to go to the Aegean.
Whoa.
So,
Whoa.
okay.
He wants to hold Smyrna. Okay.
That's an
I
odd
think
one.
Italy's gonna take Trieste.
Yeah, Italy
Wait, even though
has...
Germany came
No.
back, Germany still outemarred half of his armies.
Yeah, okay. So the German is refusing to reveal his intentions. He doesn't take Brest. And he doesn't even go to the English Channel. What is he doing? This is like... Why would he not take Brest here? The
Why would he
German...
stealth out to the North Sea again?
Yeah, and if you're like north to Belgium? I mean, he's clearly trying to keep the Italian on side, right? But
I
then,
mean,
why?
he's trying to keep the Italian and the Russian on side.
Yeah, but he's not doing anything against the Austrian. He just blew up his Gascony army. That's not a bad thing. So,
Yeah, he's trying to keep everyone on side.
why? Okay, no, I suppose actually the board could develop into a better position from him just if he leaves it. He gets Brest whenever he wants to, regardless, right? And the Russian is pulling armies down into Turkey now, so he could just make a run for Warsaw and Moscow at some point. But it still just feels bad not taking centers.
Dude, I completely agree with you. I like taking centers. I don't know what to, like... This board is so weird, and everyone's desires are so clearly explicitly solo or bust, except for Italy's, who's very explicitly anything but that. That this board dynamics is so hard to tell what anyone should do, anyone shouldn't do. I've said it before. I'm just completely clueless and lost about what's actually good or what's actually not. Is showing your intentions valuable here? Maybe, maybe not. Who actually knows?
Yeah. So it would probably all make more sense with the context of press as well, which the players obviously had, and which you
Yeah.
can see at the link in the description. But I wonder whether the move to Aegean you think was purely to hold Smyrna. That is, it only gives a 50-50 shot at holding one of Smyrna or Con. It's not even a guarantee. And like, he was betting so hard on no move to Albania, which makes no sense because isn't that all that the army in Apulia can really do? I suppose it could be supported up to Trieste in some way, maybe. But even if he's like supporting Venice to Trieste, something like that, then surely he convoys to Albania anyway.
I think there was just a. I think Austria got a little in his own head, because if Italy knew that Greece was moving into Aegean, then it is just a guess of is he going to hold in Albania or is he going to cover Greece? Because either one of those convoys is great, right? But if you don't know that Greece is moving to Aegean, then yeah, there's only one thing for Apulia to be doing.
Right.
So I think this was a bit of Austria getting in his own head and assuming that his opponent was like one level more knowledgeable than he is. But it's a pretty... I see this happen all the time.
I wonder if Austria actually told public chat that he was going to Aegean to try and dissuade the Russian from going to Armenia.
No, that's totally, in fact, very reasonable.
That would make a lot more sense.
Right? It sounds like he knows what they're doing. Right? He would assume that Italy knows that Austria is making the move to Aegean. Because he did, because you told them. That would work.
Yeah. So then he just guessed that Italy would try and convoy into Greece behind, try to block it, and Italy outguessed him, went to Albania instead. And now the Austrian position is painfully bad. Although, no move into Ukraine. Austria was able to demilitarize Galicia, so not completely awfully bad, depending a lot on what these German units do. Assuming they do not just hold.
Russia is still going to attack him. Right? These moves... Actually, okay, Warsaw to Moscow is a weird one. Because you understand why Sev to Armenia is clearly anti-Austrian, because Austria is in Turkey. And Moscow to Sev is just to cover Romania, a cover against Romania taking Sev. But then why didn't Warsaw tap Galicia? That's interesting question.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like something that's just like a half-packed. Maybe the Russian is pitching something along the lines of "Give me Turkey back, and then you're good. I'm not going to come any further." But somehow I don't think that would be the truth. But yeah, it's interesting how much is just down to what these German armies do. And, like, them doing nothing is affecting this pretty significantly. By making sure that we have no idea what they're going to do.
Yeah, if the status quo is good for you, don't change the status quo.
Germany taking that to an extreme, it's fair to say.
Hate it. I hate it.
Shall we have a look at the fall here? Oh, actually,
Let's do it.
well, I mean, one thing we didn't mention here, Spain moving back to Marseille is a bit of an odd one. But I guess it's just to cover Marseille, because Marseille was going to Piedmont to cover against the German units in Tyrolia, so it makes sense. Anyway, let's go to fall 1982 here. And the German is moving. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba. To Ruhr. And Burgundy. And Galicia. So the German seems to be anti-Austrian here. Because they're pro-Italian and that... Oh, no, never mind. They supported Holt. They support Holt, the Austrian unit in Trieste. Well, so is this anti-Russian?
If you don't know what you're doing, can anyone else know what you're doing?
It's a very good question.
I feel like Germany does know what he's doing here, though. It is very clearly nothing.
He's just, like, changing his position while letting the rest of the board do its thing. Making sure that none of the rest of the board actually makes progress by throwing this support hold onto Trieste, but getting himself into Galicia at the same time. It's a nice position to be in. And he does have the potential to just take Warsaw now. Oh no, he doesn't, because the Russian has a build. But he is close to being able to just take Warsaw.
He can probably walk into Warsaw this turn. Like, I don't think Russia's going to defend Warsaw.
I mean,
I think he just walks in.
Oh, you mean like right now, as opposed to, like, if he had gone Cilicia to Warsaw here, that would have.
No, I mean next turn. I believe he is going to be able to walk into Warsaw.
Oh, because Ukraine is probably going to be used against Romania.
I believe he is not going to defend Warsaw next turn. That is my prediction.
It would be interesting to see. I feel like this would be a pretty strong moment to stab the Russian in the north.
Stronger moment to stab if he like wasn't self-bouncing in the North Sea.
This is true.
But
he has the potential to be an English Channel and North Sea as opposed to London and Belgium, which would be a lot better of a position. But once again,
yeah, but this has got to be a diplomatic thing where he's talk to Russia, and if he moves in the North Sea when Russia's not expecting him in the North Sea, then Russia does defend Warsaw, yada yada yada. But like, whatever.
Yeah, the moves Gascony and Burgundy back is a little odd. He's giving up his claim to Brest pretty much.
Yeah, but Paris is still Paris, and Paris is his, so...
Yeah, I wonder if the army now in Marseille is going to convince him to move back to Gascony again.
Oh my god, I would love nothing more than to watch Germany move back the way he came next year. That would be my favorite thing in the world.
NMR, half NMR, move back, move forward.
Yeah. It would be fantastic.
But yes, over the other side of the board, we see the Austrian army getting dislodged in Turkey, retreating to Syria, which was its only option. But I think that unit stays on the board, right? Because he had Gascony blown up in the spring.
Yep.
So
and sadly, Vienna, Budapest, and Trieste are all covered, so Austria didn't have the option of popping it and rebuilding it elsewhere.
So he now has just a unit on its own in Syria, which...
Well, with Khan, there's an army in Khan still.
That's true. So it's not entirely on its own.
But it's
It can attempt to get up to Armenia. It's not quite as effective as a standard Lepanto because there's Fleet Black Sea, Army Ankara, Army Smyrna, Army Sevastopol against it. and no fleet support except for Fleet Aegean, which is being used to protect Greece.
Yeah, there's also no fleet in Eastern Med, which there frequently is when there's a hostile army in Syria.
Yep. It's just a little bit isolated right now.
Just a wee bit. Just a mite.
But yeah, and I guess the other big move here is Romania into Serbia. Austria just saying, okay, I'm gonna completely defend against the Italian. In fact, maybe I'm attempting to blow up Albania here.
Maybe. Maybe.
Which...
Alternatively, we can now use Serbia to support hold Greece, while Aegean supports Syria into Smyrna.
Then,
or Aegean supports hold Khan.
But then you just lose Romania and Bulgaria, right?
Yeah, but I mean, you don't care about those centers.
You just want Turkey. Turkey or bust.
I mean, that's been Russia's position for most of this game.
Yeah, and to be fair, it worked out from time to time.
Yeah.
God. So, I believe there is one build, and it's the Russian one?
Russian gained Smyrna, right? But nothing else changes?
Yeah. Shall we go ahead to the builds?
Army Warsaw, and then please walk out of Warsaw so we can walk in. That's the plan.
Okay.
It is Army Warsaw.
It is Army Warsaw. No disbands from the Austrian because they lost Army Gascony. It is our power rankings time. I think it's safe to say that the Austrian has fallen into last place.
Yes.
This is.
I completely agree.
Yeah. The question is, has anyone else moved? As a result of Germany doing nothing.
Stone nothing. I mean, Russia's gonna regain all of Turkey, right?
Yeah.
And remain in Bulgaria look Russian, so...
So are they ahead of Germany? This is the question, because Germany is in Galicia, Bohemia, Tyrolia.
No.
It's a pretty solid spot.
Russian position is not better than Germany's position.
Yeah. It kind of... I feel like this is almost the German psychological strategy working, because I feel like Germany's position is worse than it is, purely based on the fact that his units don't have the ability to move. They can only enter hold.
Doesn't have the ability to move.
They can only enter hold orders. This has been demonstrated.
Oh, I see. That's true. That's true. There's a communications breakdown with the German software, and so they actually can't. Okay. If I had known that, I would definitely change my power rankings. You're very right.
But no, obviously they can move, and Russia is below Germany here. We still have Italy in first place then. Not a lot has changed on that front. I mean, actually, Gascony Burgundy moving back probably makes the Italian position just a slight bit stronger. Although they're still going to lose Brest the moment Germany wants to take it, because Germany has the units to just throw at it.
Yeah, but Russia's gonna lose Scandinavia as soon as Germany wants to take it. So.
Yeah.
And Warsaw. And whatever else. So,
this kind of makes me want to put Germany in first, although it would feel like a crime after a double NMR. Well,
who couldn't have it first?
Sorry, the Italian right now we've got.
Oh, no way. No way. Germany's number one.
Right, so, well, this was our rankings from the last episode.
Yeah, it's different now.
This is true. Okay.
I'm not sure if it is different, but turns out if you just do nothing but hold... It's because I was pretty sure... I don't know. I thought that Italy and Austria were not going to do this. I thought that Italy and Austria were not going to throw themselves at each other and that they were going to work together. I thought they were just positioning themselves to do some nonsense, but, they weren't actually going to. Because if Italy and Austria don't waste 4 of their units bouncing each other for a couple of years, then suddenly they can actually position themselves against the others.
Yeah, this is true. Particularly Italy, I feel like could have made some progress in the north if they put more of their fleets that way. But they only had 3, so they didn't really have the option to, especially with the Austrian army in Gascony. If that joins the Italian side, that's such a different state of the board over there.
Yeah, absolutely. And once Austria builds 2, and you can even go after Trieste for a year to see how it works. But once he defends against this, and it's clear that you're not going to make any more progress, I think they should have found a way to call this off. Or maybe not. I'm thinking of more weird terms. But in these terms, if Italy just needs to stop a solo, maybe they're fine with people with nothing changing and Austria being stuck here and people just making moves. Yeah, maybe Italy is really just playing the perfect game of I can stall out, and as long as no one does anything radical, I win. So.
But in terms of the power rankings, this still means Germany goes up to first, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, that's our power rankings for 1982. Germany first, Italy second, Russia in third, and Austria back in their normal spot of number 4. This is, I don't think it's actually a normal spot. I think they've been above that a few times, but it's mainly because someone else has been doing terribly. So...
Yeah.
They're back on their usual sorts of power level, which, like, massive props to them for actually sticking out this game despite being in a pretty terrible position for most of it. So, shall we go ahead to Spring 83?
Let's see it.
Alright. Well, goodbye, Albania. What is the chuckling at?
Just
the joke.
Germany's whole everything and support holding Galicia and just sitting in Burgundy. It's funny, man. I like it. It's actually, I think it's remarkably good here. It's just hilarious. I think it is so funny that Russia is clearly expecting him to take Romania. Austria is probably telling him, "Hey, feel free to take Romania," and just no.
Nope. Germany is just sitting there. He's content where he is and he doesn't want to grow right now. And I mean, he gets an even better position because Lyon is now in Piedmont, which means it's even further away from the front. That's a pretty awful spot for a fleet to be. In terms of momentum, there's no way that gets to the Mid-Atlantic Ocean quickly enough if Germany just decides to go that way.
Yeah, if Germany just decides to go anyway, who can stop him? But if Germany never goes anywhere, then no one needs to stop him.
It's alright. He's luring his opponents into a true sense of security.
I mean, this is what he did last time, and it should have worked. Right? Yeah. He got there.
This is true. So,
yeah.
Just going for the duplicate. But people might be more aware of it this time. Although, like, the board is shaking up. We have this is the big story of the board down here, I think, the convoy of Sevastopol to Bulgaria. That's pretty significant. They got in their army behind Austrian lines here and took Constantinople at the same time.
So, I agree with you. This move is the most important move on the board. I also don't believe it's an important move. Austria did not have a line in Romania and Bulgaria. Bulgaria has not snuck through and is not going to break Austria's shell apart. It's just, it's a nice place to have an army. And it moved to Bulgaria and you got Constantinople anyways. But it's just, Austria wasn't defending against Russia. What does this do?
This is true.
Okay, it gets him a dot. That's great. It's the most important move on the board because nothing on this board happened. Right? Popping Albania might actually be more important than this. Maybe.
That is actually possibly true, because if Italy rebuilds it as a fleet, Austria is very happy.
Absolutely.
And maybe they can start working together and change things up. But if it gets rebuilt as an army and just goes for the convoy back into Albania again, that would be a fun moment.
That's what I expect.
So, yeah. And Austria does manage to successfully evacuate the unit in Constantinople into Smyrna, which kind of forms a solid line with Syria, but as in the Russian isn't going to get Smyrna, but Austria has to choose some painful dismounts here, I think.
Yes, Austria will absolutely have to choose some painful dismounts. Might I recommend rolling a d8?
I mean, it's got to be Syria. There's no way you keep Syria on the board in this position,
but
right?
Syria hurts the most. Also, I like how you're assuming he only has one disband.
He's losing Con,
seems
he's
like
losing Bull. Oh, okay, yeah, he gains Smyrna, and he
But he probably loses
possibly
Romania.
keeps Romania. But if he loses Romania, he probably keeps Bulgaria, right?
Unlikely, right?
He's got Aegean, Greece, Serbia on it.
But then he loses Smyrna.
No, because Syria can support hold Smyrna.
Ah.
See, there was a point in
Smyrna
that
is a
unit.
unit that exists.
Yep.
Oh, you're right.
So you're right, he
Smyrna-
probably only has one disband, and it probably does have to be Syria.
But then he doesn't get to support hold Smyrna anymore.
This is true. But he can hold it for one turn. So, I mean, there's not a ton else
Is
to
there
talk
really
about.
no way for Ukraine to walk into Armenia while Lake Black Sea and Khan support Bulgaria?
I mean,
Isn't that just gonna work?
no.
Because I think that's just gonna work.
The Italian has 2 on Trieste, right? So the Austrian has Serbia and Greece free, and Budapest free, actually. As long as he can
Is
trust the
Budapest free,
German.
or is it putting Vienna?
Yeah, as long as he can trust the German to keep doing this whole thing.
Yeah, if Germany does nothing but support hold Trieste and support hold Galicia with all of their units, then okay, they have a unit free. I think it's pretty reasonable that that doesn't happen and Russia walks into Romania and then Austria disbands too and is crying.
Yeah, well, I mean, shall we go ahead to fall and see?
I mean, we were both right.
Well, okay. I mean, you were correct. They did the. Wait, what happened here? Smyrna moved to Bulgaria.
Yeah,
So,
Romania was definitely unoccupied, and Russia definitely could have had Black Sea and Constantinople support hold Bulgaria, and then they would have taken Romania, taken Bulgaria, and held Khan. But instead, that didn't happen.
why do you not just put Serbia in Bulgaria here? I guess the Austrian wants to, like, conglomerate armies. That maybe they're saying, okay, Turkey's dead and lost anyway. I
And
don't
then
care
Syria
about
didn't even tap Smyrna; it just moved into Armenia.
that. Yeah, so they do have
Austria
to
still
have
defending too.
two disbands here because they didn't pick up that Turkish center. That's going to be important. Probably, possibly, we'll see. I say it's important, but like we look at the rest of the board, nothing happened. Literally nothing. There are 2 self bounces up here for which are just continuously happening, and then all of the Italian units just support held each other. The most significant difference of the German units is that Tyrolia switched from support holding Trieste to support holding Venice.
Wow, critical board change.
Yeah, he's
Super impactful.
showing favorability to both powers instead of just the Austrian. But he's still not walking into Vienna, so I mean, clearly not showing so much benefit to like favorability to Italy that he would actually help him. And like and okay, so Galicia also changed its order. It held last turn, and this turn its support held Warsaw. Just telling the Russian, I'm not coming after you.
Yeah, which is definitely what support hold means. Absolutely, yep. I'm keeping my unit adjacent to your center, but I'm not attacking you. Therefore, I am never going to attack you, because I'm always going to support hold you. Yep. That's a good interpretation of the support hold. That's why when you support hold someone in Gunboat, you've never attacked that person in the future. Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, that's the way the bots see it, right? This is
It's really not.
really?
No, the bots don't care at all if you support hold them or not.
Oh, I thought that was my old strategy for defeating the webdip bots, was just to throw support holds at them until they agreed with me, and then...
Oh, they just sort of act randomly sometimes, yes. And so you can just hold, and then they randomly don't kill you, and then you go back and win.
Oh yeah, actually, this is a complete aside, but a new story of the week that's unrelated to this game is that Ezio got a draw with with bots while having 0 units on the board. Which was a fun moment. The webdip bots have some interesting draw settings.
I mean, the draw settings are all pretty reasonable. It's if so each bot considers its own draw vote independently of each other of each other's. So each bot looks at itself and says, "Am I going to vote draw or should I not vote draw?" Which is kind of a problem because a player looks at the board and instead thinks about other people's draw votes as well, while considering should they draw. But the way that each bot does it is the first rule is, am I the biggest center on the board? If I'm not the biggest center on the board, or the biggest power on the board by pure center count, I'm willing to draw. This is the one that I believe is the most flawed because if you're going to gain centers, then you're going to be okay. So I wish it was more along the lines of, did I gain centers last year or did I lose centers last year? I think would be a better change because your position can just continually improve until you become the top center, but it's not currently. It is, am I the biggest player on the board? So, if everyone else other than the biggest player on the board is always going to be voting draw. So, the only bot you have to convince to draw is the bot that is currently winning. And this is the only bot that looks at, did it increase or decrease within the last 2 years or whatever. And so if you can just stall out the biggest bot on the board for just a little bit, you can get a draw. And so if you have one unit, try to last and hope that you can last until the biggest power on the board stops growing for a little bit, and then boom.
Yep. Or if you have 0 units, as it happens.
I mean, sometimes you just last for a long time, and then they pop, and then they just don't quite finish you off in time. This was a great game. The opening to that game was also the craziest opening to a game I've seen in my entire life. So, for starters, France opened to the English Channel and England didn't. France didn't try to take Iberia at all. They took 0 Iberian centers. Germany did not open to Burgundy or Ruhr. It instead opened into, I believe, Tyrolia and Silesia and Holland, not Denmark. So Silesia and not Denmark is a very weird one because Silesia is as anti-Russian as you can get, and so you presumably want to bounce them out of Sweden, but he didn't. So that's super weird. And England just opened the north. It's just 3 countries did crazy openings to start the game off, and I was Austria and did not have a good time.
You know when what was he called? Lee Sedol faced off against AlphaGo and Go, and the commentators were going like, "What is this bot doing? This makes no sense," until it won. Do you think we're reaching that stage with diplomacy AI now?
No.
I have a feeling the answer is very much no. Yeah.
No.
This is like...
Oh, sorry, I forgot about the French opening. France opened into Piedmont as well. Excuse me.
Okay.
French opened into English Channel,
I assumed
Burgundy.
you meant like Picardy and Burgundy.
No. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, but that's an important part of the craziness of the opening. I had the good sense as Austria to move to Tyrolia because the bots love doing the Bohemian or just opening to Tyrolia and Venice and try to kill Austria. So I think you're playing against bots as Austria. The current boss of diplomacy in their current iteration, I think it's kind of mandatory to bounce in Tyrolia. It sucks because I don't think this is the best opening, but this is what Italy does all the time. So you kind of have to do it if you want to have a good result as Austria. But it bounced Munich out of Tyrolia instead. So that was great.
It's just okay. Yeah, this isn't the game at hand, but it's an interesting seg, and it provides us something to talk about while literally nothing happens on this board except
instead
in this
Instead of talking about things, we could have gone on to the next phase.
This is true. So,
we could have done that, but we didn't.
Shall we go ahead and see what Austria's disbands are?
Yeah, you guys should check out the link. We should post that link in the description, though, so everyone can look at this beauty of a game where I played absolutely perfectly the whole way through and just got hideously unlucky the whole time.
Yep. Well, I will do. I'll plug it in the description. So check it out if you want to.
Let's see the Austrian disbands.
Winter 1983, Armenia and Aegean off the board. So Austria giving up on Turkey, which is fair at this point, I think, and just saying I'm going to hunker down in my home supply centres, but taking a fleet off the board has got to be painful.
He's never going to build a fleet again.
Well, I mean, I feel like we've said that before.
Yeah, but hasn't he not built a fleet for a ridiculously long time?
No, this last fleet got out in I think 78, 79? Something
Oh,
like
only
that.
5 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it went down to Greece, got into the Aegean, and then blew itself up. So it's
Sure.
yeah, not a particularly well-traveled fleet, that one, but it's as Austria, you're usually okay with having no fleets on the board, except when there are enemy armies in Venice, Tyrolia, Bohemia, Galicia, Romania, Constantinople, and fleets in Black Sea, Ionia, and Adriatic. It would be quite nice to have like a fleet somewhere that could do something, so that you're not just compressed in like this. But yeah, that fleet in Aegean wasn't doing very much, to be fair, going forward. It's only really useful for
If all of the
expansion.
centers anyways, then yeah, you're right, it's not doing very much. It sucks, because Fleet Aegean is one of the best spots for a fleet on the board. It has some of the most control. I think it's up there with North Sea and Ionian.
And Mid-Atlantic Ocean. But yeah.
Gotta downplay the Mid-Atlantic Ocean. I don't really want this territory. I'm just happen to be there. Yes, it's definitely on the same level as Mid-Atlantic Ocean. Yeah. But I mean, hey, if you're dying, and you need armies. So
yep, he's got to protect himself against this. It's such a weird wall of German units at the top. It's just like, you're playing in this area. I'm just gonna barrier you out from ever
it's
leaving.
the stalemate line, but the stalemate line isn't pressing.
The stalemate line has advanced across the board and is saying no passing this point instead.
Yeah, you guys are playing amongst your, like, whatever, 12 centers down there. Go have fun.
Yeah. Well, this is an interesting one to watch. I don't think I've ever seen a game dynamic quite like this. But then this is why this has gone to the 1980s. It's got interesting dynamics. Russia puts 2 armies down on the board. Makes sense. They could have put fleet Sevastopol, I suppose, but I mean, especially with the Austrian fleet in Aegean coming off, that looks a lot nicer, because you have some chance of getting it out. But maybe they want to keep the Italian on side and just kill the Austrian at this point.
Maybe, but if everyone knows who Italy is, and if everyone knows that Italy doesn't want a solo, you can't get down to a 3-way against them, can you?
Probably not, no. And not unless they have the strength in that 3-way to stop anyone from soloing, which kind of defeats the point. So yeah, Fleet Sevastopol would probably have been the right choice here, but given that they probably didn't know that Fleet Aegean was coming off the board, Fleet Sevastopol looks a lot worse if Fleet Aegean is still here.
Right? Yeah, because Black Sea's got a hard time getting out into the Aegean.
Yep. You have to rotate Con to Smyrna and Black Sea to Con. That bit's fine, but then you have to get a second fleet down into Turkey, rotate everything around, and then try and force your way out. It's difficult.
Yeah, and I mean, as long as you've got a million armies with nothing to do except support things through, it does work. It's slow and annoying.
Yeah. So, shall we move into the spring
Let's do it.
1984? Ba-ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba! Germany doesn't move! What a surprise!
Alright, so we had 2 Austrian units that moved, Vienna and Albania. Italy had a whopping 3, right? Piedmont, Venice, and Rome.
Yep.
And Russia had 2.
Yeah. Interesting difference in what happened this phase. Denmark moved to Sweden. But no, it clearly wasn't ever intending to get in. And it seems that the German no longer favours the Russian, as their unit in Galicia is no longer support holding Warsaw, it is merely holding. Is this a sign of things to come?
Yes. We've also... The bigger deal is that Italy might not actually be going to war with Austria anymore. It looks like they've made up.
Yeah, this is actually...
Army Rome instead of Army Naples.
Important. Both of them now... Austria rotates Albania back up, which doesn't look that important by itself, but in conjunction with putting 2 armies in Piedmont, Venice here, it looks like it's an attempt to force the German back, which is going to be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what the German does when they're actually forced to move their units. And
Germany's never been forced to move their units.
I mean, they've got Vienna, Trieste, Venice, and Piedmont against Tyrolia. That's not going to
catch
hold.
Vienna, and then Bohemia, Munich, support hold Tyrolia, and then Germany stays put until they try to take it from Vienna. But is Austria really going to do that?
This is true. So something important here: the Russian actually offered support for the German unit into Budapest, which would have gotten, and in a backfill into Galicia. So the German could have chosen here to get a centre pretty deep behind the stalemate line and continue their surrounding of the Austrian centres.
I mean, Germany could have taken Vienna for the last, million years.
Vienna they could have taken, yeah. Budapest was deeper. Budapest is the one they could have taken here. Although, yeah, it does seem like it would have been short-lived. Unless they were able to continue working with the Russian past that point, which is possible. It seems unlikely. If Germany makes significant progress in the south, the Russian is probably going to turn on them again. So that's probably what their thought process is. But clearly Austria, Italy have both kind of gotten sick of these units standing here. So they're rotating back up to say, please go away, and then we'll continue fighting or something. I really don't know. Like, at this point, I don't really know what to say about all this, because there's not that much going on.
There's not much to say.
The Russian has put another army down in Turkey. He has 3 there now, which is odd.
Overkill?
Feels like Sevastopol would have been better staying in Sevastopol, because you can support hold Romania or push it to backfill Romania or something. But it could still be convoyed into Bulgaria, something like that, so that's an option. But yeah, feels like everyone is just being very cautious now and not doing very much. The big news on the board is that Austria, Italy not working against each other for once.
Yeah, maybe it was just because of Fleet Gian being disbanded.
That's possible.
Maybe it was just Italy was very much saying, you don't get to have a southern fleet, and once you disband your fleet, I'll lay off.
I mean, if that was the negotiation, it seems to have paid off for both of them now. And that would make sense.
The Austrian, who now doesn't have any southern fleets.
Well, yes, but they also have the Italian a little bit off their back, at least, not trying to convoy into Albania anymore.
Certainly.
If the Italian rotates into Aegean and Eastern Med from this point, I think we could see some interesting results. And, they have reason to now, because now that there's no other southern fleets on the board, there's no real reason to be an Ionian and Adriatic if you're not attacking the Austrian.
That's true.
So
you don't need that much to support hold Venice.
Perhaps this is why the Russian is pulling everything into Turkey. He's saying, no, even if you pull your fleets in, I'm still going to hold this. So it's a lot of, preparing for attacks and stuff. Shall we see if any of them do attack in 84?
See if anyone moves.
Yep. So, forward to fall, 1984.
Okay, I'll hold everywhere on the board except for Tyrolia, Munich, and Burgundy.
Germany is the only mover on the board. What a turn of fate.
Yeah, but it's not Germany moved very much.
No, they didn't.
3 units moved back. Because they were expecting Tyrolia to get disbanded.
This is true. And it wasn't... Yeah, it was just these are the moves that will probably guarantee that Tyrolia stays alive. Do you even care if Tyrolia gets disbanded? You just rebuild it in Berlin or Kiel.
I feel bad for my troops if I let them get disbanded.
Yeah, especially if, maybe that's one of the units that survived, 100 years. Probably hasn't, but...
It probably hasn't, but, I much prefer just keep my units on the board. Even though there's no reason to.
Interesting question here. Do you think any of these units are the same ones that started the game?
Do I think there is a unit on this board that has not been disbanded? If anyone has one, it would be Russia.
I mean,
Um,
all of the units on this board haven't been disbanded. I should just say that. But yeah, the
Thanks.
I'm sorry.
Was there a unit that appeared in 1900 that did not get disbanded? I'm pretty sure it would have to have been a Russian one because Germany got just hammered down so much. Italy and Austria are both down to a singular fleet. Maybe that Italian fleet was still around, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
So I think it would just be a Russian unit somewhere, but I would be surprised because usually the units that you start the board with are the ones who go for the furthest forward. And Russia was very close to soloing and then got beat back hard and pulled back from the front lines, so they probably haven't kept their frontmost units anymore. So I
Yeah.
believe that Russia has not either. I would be astounded if any unit has been around since 01.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to ask people whether whether any of these units, which of these units has been around for the longest. Maybe at this point they might even be on like 3rd generation, 4th generation kind of time. But yes, I feel like
bunch.
the most likely unit to have survived the longest here is probably Army Yorkshire, because it's been sat there for as long as I can remember. But
yeah, I got convoy over there a long time ago.
But yeah, so the things that happen on this board, no one moved. That is kind of just it.
Yep. We can go to the next turn now.
Let's go ahead to, well, not winter, I think, because no changes.
No,
spring.
there was no units that moved, let alone centers that changed hands.
Yep. Although spring 1985 here.
Oh my! Are you kidding me? All right, great. So Germany's pulling back from the line again, and Russia's pulling back from Sevastopol. Great.
Yeah, so Russia decides here that Italy is indeed not moving into Eastern Mediterranean and Aegean. So they pull their extra unit back, which could allow them to make progress, potentially.
It might, but not against Germany and not against Austria, so...
Oh, okay, then probably not. And meanwhile, a couple of units in Germany. See, this is like madness hitting at this point. Why is no one fighting? We're here to see a fight.
Yeah, I'm moving on to the next turn. I don't care.
Okay, so the few moves. There was a move to Holland, which is like pro-Italian, but not anti-Russian, because it wasn't like all of this is just demilitarizing stuff. So it's not very useful.
Yes.
Let's just go ahead to fall 85.
I'm so annoyed. Great. Ionian moved to Eastern Med.
Oh my god.
Move to Ionian.
Okay, that is actually important.
But he can't convoy anything into Syria. Sevastopol is just going to move back down to Armenia, and nothing's going to happen again.
Convoy Greece into Syria.
But I mean, he's not going to.
Well, I mean, Ionian moves to Aegean here, right? And then you have 3 units against the Russian 2, but the Russian moves Sevastopol
back to Armenia.
So then nothing happens.
So nothing ever happens.
Okay.
Great.
One important thing. Is it important Moscow up to St. Petersburg? What's that for?
Case Germany moved units to the OC or whatever.
Yeah, maybe that was a reaction to Belgium to Holland, but like Belgium to Holland doesn't seem very anti-Russian. It's kind of like edging closer, saying, okay, I can move it to Heligoland now, so I could potentially set up an attack on you without going through North Sea. I could keep my demilitarized zone and yet still attack you. But then that begs the question, why would you bother keeping a demilitarized zone when you're attacking the person? So, oh, actually, it's probably more in reaction to Munich up to Kiel here. Because this means that Denmark can go to Baltic, Kiel can go to Denmark, and they can attack Sweden. Which could have been what the German was planning to do here. Of course, we don't know because they NMR'd. It didn't make a difference from most of their previous moves. But they did in fact hold all for real this time. Man. Is this like divine punishment because I put out that 4-minute video? Like saying here's a game where nothing happens and you have to commentate it for 4 hours.
We don't have to. We can make this one go fast because nothing happens.
We can. I am kind of happy we spent time talking about that bot game now, though. I feel like we're gonna need the padding.
Yeah, we really look at this one to see. This is a 35-minute thing. Obviously, I don't know what the rest of these years look like, but
Yeah, I mean honestly, this is kind of the point where people would draw usually. Yes. People would definitely
drawn
draw
so
here.
much longer ago. And if it was a draw size scoring, I think this game would have drawn as soon as it reached 4 people.
Yep. And, well, draw size scoring with no one needing the solo for a tournament. Because this was technically still draw size scoring.
Yes.
But yeah, especially at this point, with 5 years of no movement, this is approaching the point where you could go and ask a moderator, or one person could go and ask a moderator and say, hey, nothing's happening. Could you please, draw this game? And they would consider it. But I feel like something that's motivating these players at this point is just, it's already gone on for this long, we can't just let it end like this, right? Because they've been playing this game for 3 years. If it ends because it stalls out with no stalemate, that's just a ridiculous ending.
I mean, do we think this game is going to end in fireworks?
I mean, it might. We will see. But clearly not right now. Shall we go ahead to the spring of 1986?
Let's do it.
Alright. Okay, Ionian moved to Aegean.
Nice. And Italy shuffled. Oh my god, Italy moved.
Italy did move. They moved...
Nobody else did, but Italy did.
Why did they shuffle like this? What was the point? They went to Tuscany. Okay, so clearly the point of this is make the German feel more comfortable so that they will actually attack the Russian. Which it looks like the German could have done here. Like, the movement seems pretty aligned with attacking the Russian, except that they sent Denmark to North Sea instead of Denmark to Baltic. And actually, they should have had Holland support the move into North Sea if they were doing that. So never mind. They just they just didn't enter any useful orders at all. But yeah, this is actually quite important over here. The Italian and the German are making up. They are saying, okay, we will pull back out of this area, and then you will have room to do what you are going to do. And maybe it will.
Sure.
Maybe it will trigger the German to attack the Russian. That would be really bad for the Russian here, because they've also got Aegean and Eastern Mediterranean against them now, and presumably the Austrian will help them. Will not help them, even.
Austria will probably go after Romania.
Yeah. So, perhaps we will see some action, finally.
Let's see if it comes in the fall.
Shall we go ahead to the fall? Oh, okay, it sounds like Ezio got there before me. Yes! There was a move. Yes, so...
Moves!
The German doesn't take North Sea. Which is... Okay, sorry, I should save the depressing moments for later. We will go... The German does move into Skagerrak and into Denmark, and they go into Heligoland Bight. So they're setting up for attacking the Russian, finally. Although... they could have tried to position on Warsaw better. They went for a more defensive approach of moving Silesia back to Berlin, which feels a little unnecessary. Prussia would just have outright been better. Maybe they were predicting the Russian would go to Prussia, and then they'd be able to, like, I don't know, isolate their unit there by bouncing in Warsaw. But in any case, they have moved. They've declared war, essentially, here. They've broken the stalemate. But London needed to go to North Sea. Yes.
London probably meant to go to the North Sea. I believe he misordered that.
Yeah, that would make sense because, like, North Sea is so valuable right here. Um, there's also the question of, is it more valuable to be in Skagerrak and Denmark than it is to have blocked the Russian out of Baltic Sea? It probably is, but I don't like the Russian being in Baltic Sea. That just feels like, ugh. It's adjacent to two home centres. It's always a complete pain to deal with, especially when you've only got, well, you've got no fleets adjacent to it now.
Yeah, the good news is Baltic Sea doesn't actually affect Norway that much. So if you're going after Norway, it's not that important. And I would assume if Germany was going into Skagerrak, they were planning on making a move against Norway, but because they didn't move to the North Sea, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Right? As the board stands, with Kiel to Denmark, if London had gone to the North Sea, then they would be guaranteed Norway from the North Sea. Skagerrak supports North Sea to Norway, and then Denmark taps Sweden, and you're fine.
yep.
But obviously that didn't happen.
Clearly not. So it's gonna be a bit slower for the German up here, but they are still, like, making some progress. And in the south, the Austrian actually takes the center. Russia has to pull back. These Italian fleets, you can't see it on the map, but they did convoy the Austrian army from Greece to Syria, which also would have worked. So an interesting side note there, but it didn't go. It went to Bulgaria instead. The Austrian making some progress here. Like, though, this is just looking really bad for the Russian all of a sudden. I wonder if it's because the Russian is the sole draw holdout at this point. Which
I
is,
believe that.
given that, like, nothing's been moving for the past 5 years. This feels like very much like I have some impression of what the players were like because I've talked to some of them and such like, and I think Russia was like the big one who was constantly pushing for trying to get the solo and never accepting the draw vote. So it's very possible everyone here ganged up on him purely because he was the one who was denying them the opportunity to stop playing.
Yeah, I mean, if reading the board's important. If everyone wants to stop and you're the only one stopping people from stopping, they're gonna hit you. It's why in face to face, when everyone votes draw and only one person doesn't vote draw, people sort of stare on the table trying to see who votes no.
Yep. Important to note, in face-to-face, usually these things are done by secret ballot for exactly that reason, so that you can put in an anti-draw vote and blame it on someone else. It's also always a fun thing to do, but it's never something I can get away with. I'm really bad at like...
Everyone knows that you don't want to draw.
Yeah. I'm the kind of player who doesn't often want to draw. Although in face-to-face, actually, more recently I've been voting draw a lot more. It works out quite well for me in some games and not so well in others.
It's always nice when you really don't want there to be a draw. But then you get to vote for yes for the draw anyways, but somebody else votes no.
Yep.
And you can honestly just say, hey, it wasn't me. Because I'm really bad at lying, so if I say that it wasn't me, then people will usually tell that I'm full of it. But I can honestly say, hey, I voted to draw here, guys. I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, this is essentially what happened in the DBNI game that I soloed. There was one particularly determined person on the other side of the board. I just wanted the board top, so I was constantly saying, yeah, I'll take this draw, and he was just saying no, to the point that people threw to me at the very end.
I love it.
That's how you win diplomacy sometimes. Things just go your way by chance. In fact, that's, like, you can obviously set up quite well to get a solo in games, but at a high level, usually if you win, it's because either someone else made a massive mistake, or someone else on the board is aggravating people enough that they want to give you the win in the first place. But yes, anyway, that's off the point here. The Russian is getting ganged up on. Shall we go ahead to winter 1986? We're going to see a build phase. No, we're not, because the Austrian is in all three of his home centers. Oh, no, we are, because the Russian has to disband. Okay, that's fine. So, Austria can't actually build. Fun fact. That does give him potentially the excuse he needs to hold off on his build and build a fleet behind the Italian ones. But I have a feeling that would result in the Italian instantly turning their fleets around. So, Army Moscow comes off. Seems like the obvious choice here. Not a ton else going on, obviously, because it's a build phase. But we should do our power rankings. I think we missed them in 1984 because nothing had changed. But
Yeah.
now I think it's fair to say that Russia is in last. Is it?
How is Austria going to profit from this?
That's a good question. It's like the Russian has the most chance of just falling apart, I think, in the north, particularly. But you're right, the Austrian isn't going to make gains. They got Romania, and then they're kind of stuck. Maybe they could make a run at Munich? But then there's the counterbalance of the Italian, which makes that really hard to do, because you have to leave yourself undefended to do it.
Yeah, I don't really see how Austria is going to gain much.
So do you think Austria is behind Russia here?
I do.
So our power rankings probably stay exactly the same then. Germany in first, Italy second, Russia third, Austria fourth.
To the surprise of everyone, I'm sure.
It's an interesting one because Russia is likely to lose the north. Potentially
Russia's
entirely.
position has certainly gotten worse since the previous power rankings. It's just, we don't give absolute numbers to them, we just say who is stronger than who, and Russia is still stronger than Austria.
Yeah. This makes sense. So the gap between them has kind of grown. But shall we move ahead to the spring and see how they do in 87? Okay. No movement. The Germans going back.
No. Wait, did they not? Did nothing? No, Norwegian to North Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah. Okay.
Cascade of Spain North Coast.
So a couple moves. But Germany
movement happened.
Germany went Skagerrak to Denmark, Denmark back to Kiel, right? Which basically just saying, okay, Russia, I'm done attacking you. I forgot to move to North Sea, so that's my attack over. Which, I mean, if it's making the Russian push one of their fleets over to the wrong side of the board, or the side of the board where it can't be used very easily to defend, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe Germany can just sit here until that fleet's completely out of the way and then jump on Russia again. But they need to get into a spot where they can knock the fleet out of Baltic. Because that's just going to be irritating otherwise. I say that,
maybe.
They don't need to, do they?
I mean, if they want to attack Russia, I believe they should. Oh, wait a minute! Germany wasn't actually attacking Russia! What? Right? Because Kiel to Skagerrak and Denmark to Skagerrak and Kiel to Denmark was expected to bounce. Because Russia's been self-bouncing in Skagerrak forever.
Oh, wait. So Russia stabbed Germany?
It looks like Russia stabbed Germany.
Why?
Yeah, whatever.
Like, what does Russia possibly have to gain by doing that? This seems... I guess maybe the Russian is trying to shake up the dynamics and say, hey, I'm moving my fleet up now.
My fleet in Norwegian Sea is going to be in the Mediterranean. Promise.
You're just saying, I can help you against the Italian, let's move against the Italian together, because that shakes up the board dynamic a bit. But clearly, Germany didn't get the message. And yeah, okay, so the attempted German move against the Russian that we got all excited about turns out to not be a move at all. Although, actually, the Russian did support the Austrian down here from Budapest into Galicia, which is a thing. They're trying to dislodge that German unit and put an Austrian army there instead, while taking Romania for some reason.
Austria is just trying desperately hard to get another build. Do you think he's going to build a fleet?
Oh, he does have that build coming up, and there's nothing the Italian can do to stop him from keeping Trieste open. If it is another fleet here, that could make things interesting. I mean, what it most likely does is just make the Italian pull back out of the Aegean and Eastern Mediterranean again. Although the Italian can just move Lyon to Tyrrhenian Sea here. That's a fairly simple thing to do. You just combine it with like Marseille to Spain, Spain to Portugal, something like that. No, because then you lose Brest. They've kind of given up Brest anyway, so...
Brest is lost, man.
Yeah. So, yeah. I think the Austrian is going to go for another fleet. I think we've seen this a few times before now. The Austrian knows they need a fleet in the south in order to make progress. But I don't think it does very much. I think it's going to get stuck very quickly.
I don't think Italy is going to let him.
Yeah, precisely. It's kind of the interesting thing to talk about here. We're going to see whether that Russian move to North Atlantic Ocean can maybe trigger a German attack on Italy, because that's probably the purpose of it, trying to get him to move his fleets that way. But I guess we'll see whether it works. Shall we go ahead to the fall?
Yeah, I think so. Not too much. I mean, Austria tried to take Gascony as relevant, but Russia said nope.
Galicia, yeah. Wait,
yeah,
do you
Galicia,
mean,
not Gascony.
Do you mean the fall here? I haven't moved forward yet.
No, I meant in the spring.
No, in the spring.
In the spring, Vienna tried to take Galicia, support from Budapest and Romania.
Russia didn't say nope.
Didn't?
Russia tried to support Budapest in, actually.
But okay, he also cut Romania, which was trying to support.
This is true. So, weird moves by the Russian here. I don't know why you would want the Austrian in Galicia as the Russian. Maybe because the German is in Silesia and Galicia. Actually, that makes sense. And in Skagerrak and Denmark. So,
yeah, and if he takes it from Budapest, then perhaps he won't be able to hold Romania, is the hope. Because he might not be using Bulgaria to hold Romania.
right.
So if he uses Budapest to do it, then Russia walks into Romania, which I think Russia would be happy with.
Yes, this makes sense. Right. So, shall we go ahead to the fall now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Fall 1987. We're only an hour and a half into this recording. We're already most of the way through the year. Oh, the German is moving. And it is the way the Russian presumably wanted them to move. They're going against the Italian.
I mean, by that we mean they're probably going to take Brest, which is the territory that Italy has already given up.
Yeah.
But they also moved into the North Sea while they did it, so they might be going after Russia as well.
That's true. The units in the North Sea could very easily pivot here. But it does appear that they are going after at least Brest and possibly Mid-Atlantic Ocean. The moves from the Italian are kind of just saying nope. You're not getting Iberia. Doesn't matter if the Russians helping you with that fleet in the North Atlantic Ocean. I'm going to set up a stalemate line, just sit here.
Yeah.
Which is the sensible thing to do as the person who wants to prevent the solo. You just say, no, you're not crossing the stalemate line. Whether you want to or not.
Yeah.
But that Italian fleet in Eastern Mediterranean moving back to Ionian is also a little interesting. They're clearly like saying, okay, I'm not going to help the Austrian push. I'm going to protect myself against this probable Austrian fleet build that's incoming. Unless they need 4 fleets to hold the Med. Do they need 4 fleets to hold Mid-Atlantic?
Um, I mean, I think you want 4 because it makes things really clean and easy.
Hmm.
Uh, but if you just have Portugal, Spain, Western Med, North Africa, Army Marseille, I think you're there.
That sounds about
Maybe not.
right.
No, because
No,
then
you
Mid-Atlantic
need...
Ocean, Burgundy, Gascony break Marseille, so you do need Piedmont still to support hold Marseille, or Gulf of Lyon. So you need something else to support hold Marseille. You
Yeah.
just need North Africa and Western Med to occupy space. I think you can even hold this if you have Tunis and Western Med instead, because then Tunis supports Western Med, Portugal doesn't need to do anything, just takes up space, and then Spain doesn't do anything, it just takes up space. And then Piedmont supports Marseille, and then you're still fine, and that's what the 4 fleets are for. Um,
That makes sense.
but yeah, North Africa could be an army. It could be 3 fleets with Portugal, Spain, Army, North Africa, and Western Med just holds. I mean, technically, you only need 1 fleet. Western Med, everything else could be an army. But
But yeah, given Italy's army fleet composition, they're probably going to go for a more fleet-heavy strategy.
probably.
So yeah, they are going to block up the Mediterranean here. The German is not going to get a ton from them, but could quite easily turn around. So this is still quite a strong position for them. And I mean, Austria's got to be kind of upset that that Italian fleet is pulling back. It's like, well, we were trying to make progress against the Russian in Turkey. Now I can't. They could have got a convoy over to Syria or something before. It's not, but not going to happen anymore.
Nah, now it seems pretty difficult.
Yep. So that, just as this side of the board gets a little bit more dynamic, that side of the board kind of locks up. We'll have to see how that changes the dynamics. The German unit coming out of Galicia for the first time as well, moving back into Bohemia, kind of just saying, okay, you guys can fight on this line. I want my units elsewhere. Shall we just go ahead into the spring? Oh, actually, this was a full stab as well, which is an odd one, because usually if you're going after Brest like this, you would want to get into Brest in the fall turn to do it effectively, but clearly Germany doesn't really care about it being as quick as possible.
Yeah, I mean, he's still gonna take it, right? There's nothing Italy can do to stop it. Brest is lost.
Yeah, which does actually raise the question of if Italy does like lock down the West like this, they do get a disband from Brest, and Austria is getting a build, so there is the possibility that they just get their homeland walked into.
There is. There definitely is.
Which
I think that's relatively unlikely, because Piedmont can still support Rome into Venice, and so unless we see Fleet Trieste moving into Adriatic, I think it's difficult for Austria to break the Italian position.
this is probably true. But the Italian does have to figure out their disband. It's probably going to be one of Rome or Aegean, right? If it's Rome, then they're opening themselves up to an attack by Austria potentially. And
I'm assuming it's Aegean.
If it's Aegean, the Russian can force their fleet out again, which is a problem because the Russian is probably on the German side in this engagement, and they would have a fleet out in the Mediterranean. So, shall we go ahead and see what happens here?
Let's do it.
Okay, spring 88. We are moving at a breakneck pace here. Fleet Trieste! Yes, Austria. This is the Austria we've come to know and love. Always looking for that, that fleet build when they can.
Yeah. Oh god. I'm gonna die.
This
is a pretty good time if Fleet Ionian wasn't there.
Yep.
But Fleet Ionian just moves to Adriatic Sea now.
So maybe they should have delayed the build, but that kind of makes it obvious you're going to build a fleet next time, doesn't it?
Kind of best say I'm building a fleet later, and then Italy just takes Aegean and moves to Ionian, and then moves to Adriatic.
Yep. I mean, maybe the best way to have done it would have been to have something accidentally cover Trieste, so you can't build this turn, and then you say, okay, I'll build next turn instead. I'll build an army and vacate Budapest or something, and then you actually vacate Trieste.
Have one of your centers accidentally hold, right? Like, you try to self-balance yourself in Trieste or something, but then you support one with Budapest or some nonsense. Some really see-through obvious thing, but you have some plausible deniability. You can just say, look, I misordered. Oops.
Yep. But now this fleet is going to have to contend with Ionian and Aegean. The Italian does not have to disband just yet because the Austrian and the German moved in the fall phase instead of the spring. So we'll see whether they can do anything with that fleet. It seems, and like Austria's position is so tenuous as well. Because the moment they move against the Italian, they've got all these Russian units in their back line. Those units are probably not just going to hold. So,
we think units aren't going to hold in this game. That's a position you are willing to take.
Oh man. Well.
Is it really? Is that a position you're willing to take, Captain Meme?
I think things are going to move this phase. I'm not going to specify how many things, but I think at least things plural. So 2 units.
All right. I believe at least 2 units will move in the spring. I believe that's going to happen.
Okay. Well, shall we go ahead and see?
Sure.
Okay. Spring 1988.
Jeez, I thought I'd lost that bet for a second.
The Austrian NMRs.
Because I just saw the Austrian units NMR, and Austria's been the most reliable. Maybe Russia was. Austria's been very reliable, and so if Austria NMR'd, I just half expected there to be nothing, everything else bouncing, but no. No, in fact, units move on this board. Praise be.
And it's actually pretty significant movement as well. Italian slipping into the Irish Sea over here. Trying to get, instead of just locking down Iberia, they're saying, if you're coming for me like this, I'm going to go all out. I'm going to go push into your land and see how far I can get, which is probably not going to be very far, given there's a unit standing in Liverpool.
Yeah, if there wasn't a unit in Liverpool and North Atlantic Ocean, this should be a bigger threat.
Yeah, but it's still like something, I suppose. I kind of expect it to be pulled back down into Mid-Atlantic Ocean this time.
I would be surprised if it wasn't.
But yeah, and actually the German unit in Tyrolia kind of screws up the Italian stalemate line if they can get units into Mid-Atlantic Ocean, Gascony, Burgundy, etc., etc. Because if they
can keep the army in Tyrolia, yes.
Yeah, this is true. Which right now they're looking likely to do because the Austrian has that fleet in Trieste instead of an army, but could change.
Isn't that our favorite unit? Fleet Trieste?
Yeah. Also, what do you think of Bohemia to Galicia with support?
I mean, look, man, sometimes people are gonna be people. And I don't know. I don't understand what exactly his plan is. I mean, if I expect Austria to attack Italy here, then maybe I don't want Russia taking any Austrian centers. Maybe I want Austria to be able to focus purely on hitting the Italian.
That's actually fair. I think that's a really fair assessment because you really do want Austria to just walk into these Italian centers right now. Should be noted, Austria would have had a pretty good attack route here if they had just gone to Adriatic plus Trieste. Especially if the German is willing to help them with Army Tyrolia.
Yeah, absolutely. But he had a bird, so he doesn't have that opportunity.
Yeah. Russia is kind of demilitarizing his front, so probably Russia promised Austria not to attack Galicia, something along these lines. Germany didn't entirely trust it, maybe, and attempted to bounce the units going into Galicia, and managed to get in, because it turns out the Russian was telling the truth. The Russian actually pulls Black Sea through to Constantinople as well, which is like, this is actually quite important. It looks like the tide may have turned for the Italian here because every player is positioning against them. Every single one. Except the Austrian who is NMRing, but even the NMR is kind of anti-Austria, yeah. Because Fleet
He has the Fleet Trieste. He's moving against Italy.
Yeah. So if everyone moves against the Italian here, what happens? The Italian just dies, and then there is actually, like, I feel like the most likely person to win that is probably Germany.
It depends so much on the way in which Italy dies.
Yeah.
Because there are so many things that could happen that could have it go radically different. Let's say that Italy dies very, very quickly. Then I agree with you. I think Germany is probably in the best position. He's the one who currently stands to gain the most centers directly. But let's say he dies a little bit more slowly. Let's say that Russia commits to building, let's say, 2 more fleets in the south. Maybe he builds another fleet in St. Pete because Germany and Austria tell him, we don't want you building any armies. Where does he get these builds from? Unclear. But let's hypothesize that's what happens. Then suddenly Austria has more armies than Russia and can push them to Warsaw and Ukraine. Maybe Germany overbuilds and Germany gets way too big, so Austria and Russia need to crush Germany together, but then in crushing Germany, Austria gets positioned for a stab on Russia. Like, there are lots of things that can happen, and so much comes down to the details in which who is in the North Sea when Italy is down to like 3 centers? Is Russia in Aegean, or has Italy kept Russia successfully bottled up in Constantinople the whole time? Where's Austria? Like, these things matter too much to say who's going to gain the most from the Italian death. Yeah. And also, what if they don't stick together?
This is a question. So yeah, this is actually kind of an important point. This is what we've been seeing a lot going through this game. When you're on the back foot, it's all about how you play that defense and who you give the centers to. Because it changes the dynamics so much, and you can use that for your diplomacy. You can say, okay, this person's going to gain centers off me much faster than this person, so then this person will turn on this person because they're gaining centers faster, and then maybe I can pull a survival out of this because I won't have pressure on this front anymore because they've turned around. So a lot of this is going to be down to how they play it. And we saw, like, the German play maybe, I hate to say wrong, because they didn't really. They let everyone grow at a similar pace when they lost their solo attempts. And it kind of left the board in a position where they were the strongest power but weren't making any progress.
Yeah, but they were also pretty safe. They did a good job of losing and conceding to everyone at equal rate to keep the board relatively balanced, but they kept their position pretty strong throughout.
Yeah.
Whereas Russia, when Russia was dying earlier in the game, we saw their position was not safe in the slightest, but they did a good job of ensuring only one side made the gains. So there are pros and cons to both approaches.
For sure. And, like, I mean, this is why this is kind of a fun game to analyze outside of when everyone is standing still. Because there's so much that happens throughout it and so many different ways players approach situations like that. You kind of get to see them all.
Yeah, you get to see literally every approach possible in the same game. It's wonderful.
Yep. So, shall we go to the fall here?
Let's do it.
Yeah, fall 1988. Irish Sea just immediately goes back to Mid-Atlantic Ocean. We kind of predicted that. Germany slow playing, supporting himself up to Wales, backfilling English Channel, making sure he can move to Gascony. It's very slow play. But it is,
it's also never going to fail.
Yeah. He gets Brest. Italy has to choose a painful disband. Where is that painful disband?
Piedmont.
Piedmont? Yeah, I guess so.
Sucks. I agree with you. Painful disband, but you gotta pick something. What are you gonna pick?
How do you defend Marseille? I feel like maybe Mid-Atlantic Ocean is the disband, actually. Because, no, not Mid-Atlantic Ocean. Something like Spain, West Med, or North Africa, one of those three. So I feel like Piedmont is kind of necessary. You want those two armies in the north of Italy, always.
I mean, of course you do, but look, if maybe we're supposed to disband Marseille and then keep Piedmont so we can try to kick Russia out of Tyrolia, and then we hope we can hold Tyrolia and then retake Marseille. But my feeling is we are not going to hold the east, but we want to hold Iberia as long as possible.
Right, just like hole up in Portugal, Spain, Marseille, and say, even if I lose my homeland, this is kind of a safe place to be.
Yeah, I think I've given this advice before.
Yep. I don't know whether it was with the same power. I think it was when France was holed up there, but
Yeah, France and I think Germany too. I think I've told everyone just hold on to Iberia for a very long time. You frequently just stall out and then can get back in the game.
well, yeah. Important to say that while Germany is slow playing here, there is also an encroaching threat from the south, which was kind of mentioned there, but not really. The Constantinople to Aegean is now adjacent to Ionian, and with this Austrian unit in Trieste, it is a bit of a guessing game at the moment, but if those two fleets work together, they do outnumber the Italian fleets there, which is exactly why they're likely to lose this fight on the eastern fronts.
Yep, eventually the two fleets will beat the one. In this particular position, it is really difficult for the two fleets to coordinate, and Italy has a 50-50 guess every turn, and if Italy knew the orders that Austria and Russia were putting in every turn, Italy would not lose, but eventually Italy's going to guess wrong.
Exactly. I mean, the Austrian could make it easier by going to Albania.
Yeah.
With support, being able to coordinate on Ionian, but that feels
Yes.
bad as opposed to just getting into Adriatic.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, even if you do get into Albania, then suddenly it's the question with Russia: who supports whom?
Yep, because the person who gets supported through is probably the worse off. Yeah, because I don't know. As Austria, I kind of want my fleet in the Ionian because it's not useful in Albania to me. But at the same time, allowing the Russian fleet to stay in Aegean is painful because they're forming this line against you, which is somewhat negated by the fact that the German has this weird sort of semi-line set up in Galicia, just sort of saying, no, you two cannot attack each other right now. But it's still a looming threat. Aegean is not a nice place for an enemy fleet to be when you have the Balkans.
Yep.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
Is there much else to talk about here? I'm not sure there
I think
is.
we're good. Let's see it.
Let's go ahead to the winter. See that? Ionian comes off. Whoa. That's big. That's like actually just outright saying, like, your thing was protect Iberia, give up your homeland, right? But slowly over time. This person is just, this Italian is just saying, take my homeland. I don't care.
Yeah.
Which
Wow.
is like going all out on your strategy here. That. So that what that is doing is outright saying to Germany, "Hey, you're getting nothing from this. You need to turn around right now, because otherwise I die, and you're the one who's just stuck here, waiting while the other people are gaining census. You don't benefit from this."
But the difference is the reason why I preferred my approach. Of course, I'm going to prefer my approach, but the reason why is Germany doesn't have to wait too long. You're going to lose Naples, Rome, and Tunis very quickly with this approach. So also Venice. So once you lose all of those centers, you just don't hold very long. And so Germany can then take whatever. You only got 3 units. He's going to find a way to take one of your centers, and then he's going to take the rest in short order. So I preferred the slow collapse in the east while you basically are going to hold in the west. And maybe Piedmont was a mistake. It should have been Venice instead. But I feel like Ionian was too important to slow down this attack.
I think the big thing here is really yes, the German will break you faster this way, but also the other powers are getting centers a lot faster, and maybe Germany doesn't want that. Because
If as long as Russia doesn't build a fleet in St. Pete, what does Germany really care? He's had the position he wanted for so long.
if you end up with like this dynamic where you just have Germany, Austria, Russia, plus maybe a few Italian units hanging around in Iberia, what happens from there? That's a really odd situation. Actually, I think you're right. I think Germany still has the advantage in that situation because Russia needs more northern fleets in order to be competitive up there, and they just don't have that. They can only build one fleet at a time, so you're fine to wait and make your own gains and then attack them. So yeah, maybe this isn't gonna be the way to do it. I guess we'll see how effective this is. We do have to do our power rankings again. It feels like we're getting around to them really quickly, but that's kind of because this episode has been faster than most. I think it's safe to say Italy is now in last place.
I would agree.
Yeah. Just because if you're being attacked by everyone, that's generally a sign that you're in last place.
Or you're in first place.
Yeah, one of the two. Sometimes even one very quickly followed by the other.
Frequently first place and then last, yes.
Yeah. Who would you say is in second last here? Austria still?
Austria.
Austria still? Just because of all these Russian units hanging around their border.
Russia's going to make it into Ionian and has his first grab at Naples, which is the first thought to grab, whereas Austria is not as likely to take any Italian center. Piedmont can choose who to deny. My instinct is that Piedmont would be support holding Marseille, but maybe Tyrol then supports Venice to say, well, you know what, Austria, if I'm not getting anything, neither are you.
Yep.
So.
Which, maybe the German and the Austrian march on the Russian here. That would be an interesting thing to see.
The German and the Austrian march on the Russian as well, then yes, I could see Austria's position being higher than Russia's. But you know what? Germany could also just support Silesia into Bohemia and say, hey, Vienna looks pretty nice this time of year. I know Fleet Trieste can't actually hold Vienna. So, gimme.
Well, it depends on what Germany decides to do. And of course, like, either a Russian center here or Vienna are quite nice for the German. Because they're both across the line.
But I think my argument is that Germany's just going to pick neither. He's just not going to choose a side here. And so which of the two of them are going to grow are in better position by themselves.
Right. But it's fair to say that Germany is still the strongest power here, yes?
Yes.
Yeah, despite the fact they're probably not going to make any immediate gains off of the Italian from this point. They just have such a strong position already. It just shows from having these units across the stalemate line, you can have pretty significant influence even if you don't do anything with them. And it helps them a lot that there's 3 southern powers left in the game and 1 northern one. Well, Russia is kind of both, but you get the point. Right, so our new power rankings here. Germany in first, Russia in second, Austria not in last, in third even, and the Hanged Man in Italy in last place here, being attacked by everyone. Let's go ahead to winter of 1989, not winter of 1989, spring of 1989. German NMR.
Has German NMR 3 times in this video?
Oh, it's very possible. It's hard to tell because they do like semi-NMRs a fair amount as well.
Sure.
But the Russian actually decided to attack them.
Punishing them for an NMR for the first time this game.
Yep.
Oh my god.
They're gonna lose Denmark, although arguably they would have lost it anyway. In fact, I'm not actually sure their NMR hurt them any more than not.
Oh, come on.
Would have done.
Yeah, Denmark was probably holding. You sure it wasn't tapping Sweden? Denmark could have been tapping Sweden.
It could have tapped Sweden. Yes, that's true.
And like now he let Russia into Prussia, Warsaw, and Ukraine and stuff, and so now he's going to lose Galicia and Silesia.
But he was just ordering Silesia hold Silesia support hold Galicia constantly anyway, so it's I feel like he's not actually in a much worse position than he would have been if he hadn't done this.
Okay, much worse position, I agree, but at least a slightly worse position. Whereas previously, he NMR'd and his position improved.
Yes. But this is an interesting call by the Russian, just deciding to attack. They are going to get 2 builds here, because they have an open Naples, they have an open Denmark. Well, not an open Denmark, but a guaranteed Denmark. And nothing can be taken from them. The Italian strategy works out in that respect, I guess. They decided to just go all out on Iberia, as you said. And the Russian decided that, being able to take Naples this early was probably the key point for them deciding to do this. Would you agree with that?
I guess.
Yeah.
I don't get why you would do this as Russia. Because Italy has essentially said, I am going to deny Germany centers, and you guys can take whatever you want from me. So you can wait a year, and then get your Naples, and then also get Tunis or whatever, and then go. I don't see why you need to make this play right now.
You think? Well, I guess you do it if you think the German will attack you first, otherwise, right? But even
Maybe.
then, what does the German take off you here? If anything, this just opens you up to getting Warsaw taken this turn. But, yeah, I mean, we'll see how it turns out there. It also... I don't know how much is... This is very good news for the Austrian. Like, that goes without saying. I think the Austrian can even just continue the attack on Italy. Say, okay, you guys fight it out up there. I'm just going to try and take the homes over here. Maybe actually get into a good position. And Germany chooses not to retreat into Vienna, notably. So Germany is still quite pro-Austrian, clearly.
Yes.
Yeah. Although it is a spring phase, so if they had retreated into Vienna, it probably just would have resulted in the Austrian kicking them back out again. So, I mean, that kind of covers what happened this phase. Shall we move ahead to the next one?
Let's do it.
Alright. Fall 1989 Austrian NMR. Oh boy. So, I might be spoiling a bit of the behind-the-scenes magic here, but I do have to, transcribe all of the orders from webDiplomacy into this Backstabber sandbox in advance of the games. And usually I just do that very quickly without thinking, so the reactions you're hearing are fairly genuine. But during this, I did notice all the NMRs. I did actually point out to Ezio in advance. This is probably going to be a fairly frustrating one. And I think now you're realizing why, yeah?
I mean, yeah, it's a 3-year-long game. What can you expect? People got lives. They can't always log into the same game all the time.
This is true.
And we saw him NMR a little earlier today, or this session, so he's probably had something come up in real life, and real life takes priority over these games. So it's not...
It's true. I mean, it must really suck when you finally get into a spot where you can do something. For that to be the turn that you end up NMRing on.
Yeah, if you imagine how different this board looks if he goes for a convoy into Apulia.
Yeah, of course it was still a guess on whether you...
No, I mean, yeah, technically. But not really.
Actually, it wasn't even a guess, because Tyrolia didn't support whole Venice here. It held. So...
it wasn't even a guess.
Austria could have gotten away with either of the 2 guesses, one of which is convoy over to Apulia to get positioning. The other is just attack Venice in the hope that Venice is going to Apulia to block you. But in this case, Tyrolia really should have been support holding Venice. That kind of goes without saying. But yeah, and on the other side of the board, I mean, obviously we didn't see the Austrian pushing the attack here. The Italians still in a bad spot because they lost Naples, and the Austrians still in a position to attack them. But they're in an okayish spot because the German has turned around. They have said, hey, the Russian is attacking me. I think I should probably rotate back to attack them. Doesn't save Denmark. It was never going to. But it does allow the Italian to get into North Atlantic Ocean, Mid Atlantic Ocean here, and move a fleet back to the Western Mediterranean, and get into Burgundy, which is an interesting spot. I mean, is there anything in particular you want to talk about on this board?
It's just so sad.
It is quite sad.
It's so sad. A moment of silence for our friend Goldfinger. All right, moment of silence is done. Yeah, they're Italy's in a good position. Italy's doing great.
Yep.
Getting into. Sorry?
When we say great, they're still in a painful spot. But
they are
less
doing
painful.
So much better than it would have been reasonably expected their position to be going into this turn.
Yep.
When you look at the spring, in what you thought Italy was going to look like, versus the fall and what Italy actually looks like, Italy is ridiculously over EV.
Yep. I mean, they somehow have turned this position into one they can expand from. And it's not expanding from their homeland, which is really odd, because usually you expand out of your homeland in a sort of bubble, or at least in one specific direction from it. They've sort of re-centered their homeland on Iberia, and now they're pushing into the north from there, which that works as long as they can hold enough of their homeland to build in.
Well, I mean, if you're not taking anything, then you're probably not going to be building. So it's okay. You don't need to be able to build all the time.
They could potentially take things to build, though. They've got shots at Belgium and Paris, which can be blocked by the German, but there's a shot at them.
True.
And they have these fleets going north that could go for the English centres and or Brest. We'll see whether they actually do, because that might upset the power balance in a way that doesn't benefit Italy, given that would help Russia more. I guess we'll see. Shall we go ahead to the winter?
Let's do it.
Alright, we're gonna see 2 Russian builds here. Fleet St. Petersburg. Kind of expected they'd need those northern fleets, and Army Moscow.
I'm honestly surprised it's on the north coast. I was expecting the south coast.
Yeah, Baltic would be a very important spot right here, because you kind of do. Well, if you want to break the German homeland, you need a fleet in Baltic Sea.
Yeah, generally speaking, that's very much true. If Germany is looking to defend at all, Fleet Baltic's very important.
Yes. Fleet St. Petersburg North Coast means they're planning to try and contest North Sea, right? More immediately. So they're saying, I do not care about the German homeland as much as I care about neutralizing these Italian fleets coming over the top. But Italy disbands Western Mediterranean.
Dude, Med's overrated.
I mean, they are just taking it to the extreme of, I'm relocating to Iberia, I don't like my homeland anymore.
And here, I feel like it's probably too far, because now Austria can literally YOLO and take over the Italian homeland.
Yep.
And then have a 3-way where one of them can maybe go for the solo.
Exactly.
This is a bit much to me.
Western Med was really important.
Why not pop North Atlantic?
Or like Portugal, if you're gonna pop something on this front.
Yeah, or Portugal.
Western Med is just a better positioned Portugal right now. It can do everything Portugal can do, plus more. So,
Yeah, I don't understand this one. Lots of
Maybe,
these ones I can come up with some nonsense for, but here I really can't.
maybe this was an automated disband. Maybe they missed the phase.
Maybe.
Maybe they decided they want to give more of the South to, or show themselves giving more of the South to Austria and Russia in order to make sure that the German stays turned around. But it feels like a mistake. Feels like a big mistake as well, because as you said, Austria can just now go for the Italian homeland. Uh, shall we
And
go
Germany
ahead?
is going to be stuck defending against Russia,
Yeah,
so Germany can't interfere, and these two Italian armies will not stand to the might of the Austrian aggression. And this one Russian fleet, I mean, it's nice and all. It's probably going to take Rome first, but if Austria convoys into Apulia, it's not going to matter.
yeah, and even there, it could just continue working with the Austrian, potentially go for Tunis if they just say, let's get the Italian out of the game.
Yeah, seriously.
Which,
Yeah, this is. Yeah, we'll see, dude. I'm excited. I'm excited.
yeah, well, I mean, the excitement's come at the right point. Well, because we're about to end on a cliffhanger. I think there's 1 year left in our review for this time. Shall we go ahead to spring of 1990?
Yeah.
That feels so weird to say. 1990, we're approaching my year of birth. We're like 5 years out still, but
Same.
yeah.
Were you spring 1995 or winter 1995?
I was born in autumn 1995,
So
so
fall, nice. I was born in winter,
it's
so there needs to be a winter 95. Wait a minute. What if no one's building in the fall of 95? Oh no,
your existence could be skipped. This is true.
that would be a bad timeline.
Man,
Yikes.
it's going to be interesting to see who owns, like, because I was born in Dachau, so that's in the Munich province in this map. It's going to be interesting to see what nation I'm born to.
I didn't even know that. I thought you were born and raised in England.
No, well, I was raised in England past a certain point, but I was born in Dachau in Germany. So, yeah, who knows? Maybe I'm going to grow up speaking Russian. Maybe I'm going to grow up speaking Austrian. More likely, I'm going to not grow up because there's so many people attacking.
Yeah, we've
We'll
probably
see.
depopulated a lot of the youth in all of these countries.
Yep. Although, actually, Munich's been one of the less. Well, no, okay. It has certainly been attacked a lot, but more recently, it's been one of the more peaceful provinces.
Yeah, it's been relatively strong.
Yeah, and actually, the English homeland is probably where I'd want to be born on this board if I was born anywhere. Because it's been
Well,
no,
yeah,
not now. I guess Moscow
that
might be
earlier
better.
on, completely, I agree. But at this point, it's scary. I don't know if we can. I don't know if England's going to be safe.
Yeah, it's a good
Probably,
question.
really, you want to be born in Ankara because
Yes,
Ankara has just been Russian for the last 60 years.
this is. I think this is true. I I need to check the stats on that, but yeah, I think Moscow and Warsaw have both stayed. No, did Germany?
They've
Yeah,
been
because
Russian for a while, yes.
Germany didn't get Warsaw in his solo push, so
Yep.
I think those are probably the nicest places. Also, St. Petersburg, I think, has been Russian for a very long time.
True that.
So, yeah, we are talking through where you would like to be born if you were born in this game.
Yeah.
Anyway, so these are the spring moves of 1990, which we have so far failed to talk about.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much what we predicted. The Austrian is taking position against the Italian. The Italian
There was,
Ennemad.
there was one pretty big difference, though, that
Yeah.
we didn't predict. The Italian NMR.
The Italian Ennemad surprisingly doesn't actually affect very much. They could have
Assuming
bounced.
we did relatively normal orders, yes. But notably, Burgundy could have supported Tyrolia into Munich.
It could have done. That's true. I don't know why you would want to.
Don't you? You were just
Well,
talking
I
about how
mean-
nice Munich was to live. Don't you want to tank the house value there?
I mean, yeah. So if you're completely abandoning your homeland, yes, but like,
Presumably you're not, so
Yeah.
presumably you want to stay. But
yep. And
I don't know what this Italian is thinking, man. I don't know his life.
yeah, well, right now they're thinking I've got better things to do than enter orders. So the German noticeably kind of does a semi-pivot here. They do tap Burgundy, they go back to Paris, they tap the Mid-Atlantic Ocean, they go back to Liverpool here. They're kind of fighting the Russian at the same time as saying, okay, Italian, you're not gaining this stuff. Please go back and defend your homeland instead.
Yep.
And
And Italy's NMR, so Italy's not going back to defend his homeland anyways. And all of these units that I think Germany was expecting to bounce, such as Edinburgh and Picardy, didn't end up bouncing. So they actually just moved further away. I think he's pretty upset about this.
yes, actually, this given that this is right after the Western Mediterranean disband, I have a feeling that that was probably an NMR as well.
Isn't the thing if you NMR in two consecutive phases, you just get dropped? From
Yeah,
webDiplomacy?
that does usually happen. So that would be an odd thing. Well, back when this was done, you could NMR in consecutive phases as long as you checked in to the game between them. So if they open the game page, they would be fine.
Sure.
But yes, it does raise that question. I guess we'll have to check chat logs at some point. See what
Yeah, I
happened
guess.
here. But yeah, overall,
I don't think I could find 1990 if I tried, though.
I think it says 1990 on the in front of the messages when they're being sent.
Okay, that would make it easier. Okay.
But yeah, so Russian moves to Ionian Sea here. Got a clear shot at Tunis. The Austrian can just attack Venice here. They've got a clear shot there. But they do have that Russian fleet in Ionian that, it could go for Greece. So there is that
It could.
question.
Also, I mean, Romania is exposed. If Russia wants Romania, Russia is likely to have it unless Serbia is holding Romania, which seems unlikely.
Yep.
My
Russia.
assumption here, sorry, is that Austria is going to have Apulia go to Rome, and then Adriatic supports Trieste to Venice, while Vienna taps Tyrolia, and Serbia goes to Trieste. Because this
Yes.
means you're guaranteed Venice, and you might take Rome if Italy doesn't defend it.
But that also means that Russia can do Constantinople tap Bulgaria and Ionian Sea to Greece and a double attack on Romania to take both Romania and Greece,
It does.
which would be painful for the Austrian.
$20, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of just want to get rid of the Italian here, right? I mean, actually,
Everyone in the game, in my mind, should have wanted to eliminate the Italian years ago. Because the Italian doesn't want this game to end in a solo, and everyone else does want the game to end in a solo. He's the only one whose desires go completely against all of theirs.
yeah.
I suspect at this point that any country in this game would relish a 50% chance at a solo. So if Austria and Russia can come to some agreement where they say, look, we're both going to push beyond the stalemate line, and one of us is going to find a way to stab the other effectively, and then one of us is going to solo. Okay, are you down for that? I suspect they would agree with that. I suspect everyone would be willing to take that offer, except Italy, who's just going to say no. I'm not
Yep.
gonna let anyone solo.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe we will just see them do this. Shall we go ahead and have a look?
Let's do it.
Fall 1990 here.
No, instead Russia just didn't.
Okay, the Austrian decides to not bother attacking the Italian and just go for Naples instead.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
I mean, Ionian tapped Adriatic instead of taking Tunis.
Does
So
Italy got into Brest? So they get a build here. Ooh.
Italy got into Brest and did not lose any home centers, and has Venice open for a build. What the hell?
What? Why did you let this happen? All of the other powers. Okay, Germany I can kind of understand. It's fine to give up Brest here. Because you want to position around the North Sea. North Sea is important. And you think Brest being taken doesn't make a huge amount of difference for the Italians, so maybe they just won't go for it. But Russia and
Also, what are the
Austria,
odds Italy goes for Brest? It's probably pretty low that Italy goes after Brest even, so it's probably fine.
yeah. But Russia and Austria, why would you let this happen?
It's really just Russia. There was nothing Austria could do.
Well,
Like, if
Austria could have
Austria...
walked into Venice with Trieste here, right?
Yeah, but I mean, the only time that works is if we assume that Italy isn't covering Venice.
Hmm.
Is that reasonable? Not really.
Yeah. It's a... Yeah, I mean, it's an odd question. Why did the Russian tap Adriatic?
Instead of moving into Tunis, I don't understand. It's so weird.
I
It's
get...
so weird.
I guess they just didn't want the Austrian to grow.
Yeah, which Austria's like, you don't want me to grow? Watch me.
Yeah, I'm going to Naples. I'm going to get a build. Austria does get a build. They're going to put it in Budapest, but they get
And Russia has to disband as a result.
and Italy gets that army Venice, which is gonna be huge, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Austria can't really. Maybe he can.
No.
Because he can still convoy into Apulia frequently, because there's still guesswork. What does
Yeah.
Russia do with Fleet Ionian? Because if Fleet Ionian, let's say, takes Tunis, it's a very different game from if it, say, supports Rome into Naples.
Yep.
And maybe this was Russia trying to bully Austria into helping him against Germany. And he said, if you don't help me against Germany, I will stall you out against Italy. And this was his way of doing that.
That's possible. There's also the possibility that he said this is no. Okay, never mind. I was gonna say he was trying to force Austria to take Venice with the fleet, maybe to make sure
But
that
why?
he wouldn't make gains as quickly, or at least to make sure that his fleet was tucked away so it couldn't do anything against Turkey. Actually, that does kind of make sense because the Austrian did try to get into Ionian here, right? So if Ionian had gone to Tunis, suddenly Turkey is in trouble. But why don't you just hold Ionian? Like, you don't need to tap Adriatic here. You can say to Austria, sure, I'm holding Ionian. You do your thing on Italy, but you don't get to pull your fleet out. But yeah.
Yep, that would have worked. But that's not the world we're living in.
Yep. So, real lifeline for Italy here. A lot of things had to go right for this to go right.
Huge lifeline for Italy here. Just the biggest break.
Yep.
Austria NMR'd in the spring of 2 years ago, and then finally got here in the spring, and then Russia decides that he doesn't want to let Austria make progress.
Yep. And he had to take Brest as well to get this build. That was important. Turned out to be super important. Like,
Yeah.
wow.
Here, I'm sure that Goldie wished he'd tapped Venice and then traded Venice for Trieste, because then he would still be building in Budapest, but Italy wouldn't be building. He'd be blocked.
Yes.
That would have been so good. But again, you can't reasonably expect that to happen.
That's true. Like, if you told me the Italian was getting a build, like, after the spring turn, I would just be like, what? How?
And in the dark, Italy is probably the one who would make that trade, because if Austria never has Trieste, Austria can never build a southern fleet.
Yes.
So, yeah.
You are happy with that? Yeah. Wow. So we haven't really talked about the war in the north very much. Russia takes North Sea, and aside from that, Germany pulls Galicia back out again, which is a kind of important change. That the unit's been sat there for ages, and now Russia is the one on the front against the Austrian again, and they have position to take Romania, although they kind of already did, so they just have a stronger position now. Yeah. And other thing that happened is the German just kind of positioning units on North Sea over here and losing Brest as a result. They're going to have to choose a disband. That's not going to be fun. Probably going to be Bohemia, though. Or Cilicia, I suppose. And yeah, that's about what we got to cover this phase. It's a huge break for the Italian.
Just unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Shall we go ahead to the winter?
Let's see it.
Alright.
Hey, look, Army Venice, Army Budapest.
Winter 1990. Yeah, Paris comes off as well, though, which means that Italy actually can take that. If they want to. They would need to open up a build center, which is very hard right now. But, you know, they've got a real lifeline here. They could just become France. This is... but yeah. And, yes, Army Budapest, as you knew would happen. So, we need to do some power rankings. What are your initial thoughts?
This is a toughie.
It really is. Because
I need to look at a bunch of the tactics in all of these fronts to get a better sense. My first instinct is that whoever is winning between Russia and Germany is going to be number one. That's my first instinct.
despite the fact that both of them disbanded this phase?
Yes, that's my first instinct. But if that war is not going to go well for either side, and with this disband in Prussia, I believe neither side stands to gain much. Then, whoever is winning between Austria and Italy will be number one. But if Russia and Germany make friends, then Russia's number one. If not, then it's... If not, and Russia needs to keep using its armies in the north, then Austria's number one. But...
how do we even translate that into a power ranking?
Austria number one.
Are we actually going to put Austria at number one? Like, they... Man,
so
if Army Venice hadn't happened...
But real talk, Austria is still guaranteed Venice.
Yes, they are. This is true.
Unless Ionian taps Adriatic Sea again. If Ionian taps Adriatic Sea again, of course, it's all up in the air. Because that fleet is the difference between Austria crushing Italy and not.
Yep. But this is also Ionian's last chance to actually take Tunis, right? Given that Spain is almost certainly going to Western Mediterranean this turn.
Yes, it is.
So...
But he didn't take Tunis last turn. Why would he take it this turn?
That's true. We will see on that front, I guess.
On the final video.
Yeah. Man, this got very interesting very quickly.
Yeah, this is a cool board. It only took 5 years of all holes to get here.
Yep. I actually... So, okay, power rankings wise, I feel like Italy has to be in last. Just based on the fact that they are probably losing Venice. They have to rely on the Russian fleet to even save their home center here, and they've already lost Naples. The only thing that counterbalances that is the fact that they don't need a solo to win this tournament. But based on the board itself, I think Italy is in last place.
Yes.
Yeah. Second last. My instinct says Germany. Mainly because they have lost Paris the moment that Italy wants to take it. They can't really defend them. Well, if... it depends whether they get attacked from two sides or not, right? But their fleets just seem a little less... in a bit of a painful position compared to the Russian ones. The Russian having North Sea is pretty huge, and the Russian has control over Scandinavia. There's no great way that the German can push back out again to take things. Right?
I completely agree. I would much rather have fleets in Norwegian, North Sea, and Skagerrak than Yorkshire, English Channel, and Belgium.
Yep. Exactly. And, like, the Russian is the one in the power position here in the first place because they have Scandinavia right now. the German needs to get a build in order to put a fleet down and get it into Baltic, in order to have an advantage here. And that relies on the Italian giving them a build, which I don't know that the Italian is willing to do. So, that's my thoughts on that. I would put probably Germany third. Oh man, that means Austria is in... Is Austria in first? Austria can't be in first. This has to be the Russian in first, right? They've got...
I said that Austria was in first, baby.
You really think...
I said that. I said Austria's number one. Unless Russia goes after Austria right now, Austria's going to stand to gain a lot.
Yeah, I mean...
I firmly believe that.
I kind of see it. They're getting the Italian home centers. The Russian has positional advantage, I think. They have Ionian Sea, that is huge. There is only one other fleet in the south, and they control the most important province on the board, but they can't capitalize on it. There's not a lot they can do to actually push in against this Austrian, except prevent the Austrian from taking Italian SCs, and that just aids the Italian, that doesn't aid the Russian. So
and it doesn't necessarily do it for so long. If Ionian taps Adriatic Sea, planning on keeping Venice around, Austria can simply convoy another army into Apulia, can convoy Trieste this time, and still backfill Trieste safely. So it doesn't actually stop Austria from taking the centers, it just slows it down a bit.
Yeah.
And that's important.
Yeah. I mean, I'm actually willing to do this. This is insane, but I think I am going to, here we go, then reveal these new power rankings. For the first time, I think in the entire game, Austria is number one, going into the finale.
Yeah, we'll see how long it lasts. I give it a year and a half. Because, Russia's going to attack Romania with strength 3, and then they're going to cut Bulgaria, and Austria's going to not use Serbia to support hold Romania or something, and then this is all going to fall apart.
I mean, it's possible. We'll have to see. But right now, I
want
think
to see Russia. Yeah, I agree with you.
They somehow have the best chance. This is just incredible. Oh, man. But yes, so I've got Austria first, Russia in second, Germany in third, and Italy down there in fourth with just 2 home centers, both of them under threat, but having successfully relocated into France.
Yeah, and after building in Venice, let's be clear, Italy is still in last place after looking into this build in Venice.
Yep.
Imagine how bad the position is if they didn't.
Yeah. But the build in Venice is such a lifeline. That could change the course of the game. I suppose we will see, and this is it's not actually that much shorter an episode than all the other ones because of how long we spent talking about these last few years, which is good. But yes, we will see you next time for the grand finale of this 100-year game. Thanks for tuning in.